Alt 98.7.
My name is Gino D, and I am here with Maggie Rose. Maggie, how are we doing today?
I'm good, Gino. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking some time and talking with us today. We are gearing up for your show coming up on Thursday, May 16th at the Barrelhouse Ballroom. People can get all the details, of course, on their website, purchase their tickets. We're actually giving some away as well on Alt 98.7. So we want to make sure we get everybody packed into the ballroom to see you do your thing. And I know that you have a new album out right now, which is super exciting. You're on the road, you're touring, you're doing everything. And we're going to get into all of that. But first, I kind of wanted to start from maybe your musical beginnings. Maybe there's someone out there that hasn't heard from you before. I know you've been doing this for quite some time, but let's talk about maybe your earliest memories of music, how you kind of get into the music scene, how you've discovered your talent, and then what kind of inspired you to say, you know what, I want to do this full time and go for it.
Well, I think one of my first memories is intrinsically connected to music. It was me singing before I could really talk. And I have such a supportive family. They obviously knew that this was something I loved to do because I was constantly making noises around the house and performing for my parents' friends whenever they would have dinner parties. And I was a bit of a showboat. And my friends connected me to a Bruce Springsteen cover band when I was 15, and they were probably I'll be 30 years my senior, and they let me start performing with them at bars in the Jersey Shore. And that's kind of when I realized that being a good singer is just a fraction of the whole thing. And it's about connecting and writing songs and helping people escape into the music. I'm kind of expediting the story, but I ended up moving to Nashville when I was 19.
Wow.
Via Tommy Mottola, who heard some of my original songs. I left Clemson early, where I was studying vocal performance as a major, and kind of threw myself into the Music Row washing machine and was releasing music to country radio as early as 2010. Kind of realized that I hadn't gotten to ask those questions of myself that I think every artist should when they're developing and finding out who they are. I'd just been kind of catapulted right to, releasing music and presenting things that I probably wasn't ready to release. But it's been a good journey because I feel like I found my voice. It's much more soulful and being unapologetic. And this is my fourth album, and I've definitely migrated away from that music. It's more soulful and pop, and this album's very introspective. But I've definitely evolved with Nashville. I think the correlation is certainly there because it's a much different town than the one I moved to.
Right, absolutely. And that new album, we should mention it, No One Gets Out Alive, released just last week. So you're on a natural high, I hope, from that whole entire experience. And hopefully the feedback's been great so far. Can you share some insights? You led to it a little bit there, maybe into the inspiration behind the album and what you wanted people to take away from these new songs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was definitely a dark time when I was writing these songs. We were all dealing with the pandemic, and that meant for me, my livelihood as I knew it was no longer available. Touring was canceled overnight, and I was physically isolated, creatively isolated. So a lot of these songs became just a lot more personal in the genesis of their idea. But that was my way of finding catharsis through a tough time. And it wasn't outcome oriented. I have to say, like, this record was just something that I had to make because it's what I have to do.
Sure.
And I signed with Big Loud, the record label that I've released this album with, but I had the record completely done before we ever even met. So this was just me kind of swinging for the fences. And I think that's what the album's all about. It's about taking our lumps as we're given them, but also having gratitude and moving forward with only what we need and realizing that our time is finite and precious. And I lost people during the pandemic, both in like a sense of friendship where those relationships just kind of couldn't sustain the pressure. And then I also had people pass away, and just feel like I'm at that age where this album is me taking stock of what's important in life, and music is certainly central.
Yeah, your music often is about topics that, how can I put this, complex topics. You talk about female empowerment, you talk about relationships, you're talking about growing older, things of that nature. How do you approach songwriting, and how has that changed maybe when you were younger till now, 4 albums later? Has that process changed at all for you?
Yes, I think I've become more brave in songwriting, just in the sense that, like, you can try to create the perception for yourself as much as you can and control that, but people prefer honesty. And I think that our audience is pretty smart. So give them something that is real and that they can sink their teeth into. And I also feel like songwriting for me is this complicated, elusive, magical thing where when the creativity and inspiration is there, I have to really strike and capitalize on it. And then it's just that hard and that easy. And with this album, I feel like I wrote the bulk of the songs within like the 6 month period, just because there was something going on with me that I had to process. Maybe there's one song that falls outside of that timeline that I considered for a previous project that finally felt it was the right time. That song's called Mad Love, but I think that it's just like this little, there's mysticism to it. It's,
Sure.
you just got to catch it while you can.
And you've had quite the impressive lineup of collaborators for this album, which I can only assume added to the experience. Grammy-winning producer Ben Tanner from the Alabama Shakes and numerous others. I could go on and on with that. How did this dream team come together? How did you reach out to these artists? How did that all become this big collaboration in name for No One Gets Out Alive and for you?
I really attribute that to just having done this for so long. I've amassed a really impressive list of friends who happen to also just be supremely talented. So Ben Tanner and I, this is our second effort. We made Have a Seat Together at Fame and released that in 21. Bobby Holland is a Grammy nominated engineer who I did Change the Whole Thing with in 2018. And he was the engineer for this whole record as well. And it was just me dreaming. It was like swing for the fences. Who can I get in here that is going to help me realize these songs to their full potential? Like Sadler Vaden and Chad Gamble from the 400 unit, Zach Cockrell from Alabama Shakes, Peter Levin, who plays with Amanda Shires, Caitlin Connor and Kyle Lewis, who play in my touring band, and I'm really close with them. Don Hart, who's this incredible music arranger and composer. I connected with him through the pandemic, and he ended up sitting through all the tracking sessions and just thinking about the string arrangements that would ultimately end up on the record. And just people who were invested in making something great because they wanted to do it, you know. And then it ended up, we were rewarded, I think, for our ambitions and just that collaborative spirit. But it was such a magical time tracking these songs because we did not blow through them and try and get 6 songs in a day. We really took our time, and all of these people are producers in their own right. So it was just like this really cool environment where ideas were free flowing and everyone felt safe to contribute.
I bet. No, it's like a super group. I mean, you guys really have quite the team there. So for sure. And the album sounds fantastic. And again, it's called No One Gets Out Alive. I want people to go and stream it, go see what it's about. You can also go to MaggieRoseMusic.com for all the details. Make sure you follow Maggie on Instagram and all social media. I am Maggie Rose. So hats off and congratulations to the album. It's fantastic. Which brings us to now performing these songs live, right? Being on tour and going throughout. And I know you have numerous dates. Again, you're coming to Chattanooga on May 16th. You have over 100 performances at the Grand Ole Opry. Appearance at major festivals, Austin City Limits, Bonnaroo. You did Riverbend here in Chattanooga not too long ago. You were just on NBC's Today. Let's talk about you performing these songs. How has your journey shaped what you do now as a performer? We talked about songwriting a little bit, but what about the performance of it all?
I think the performance for me is the litmus test with, you know, what's connecting with the audience. And that's what was so wild about putting an album together without that resource for us. Like I was just sort of having to trust my instincts, and the audience has always been my A&R team. You know, they let me know what's working and how to sequence things. So I'm so grateful to have that platform. The urgency of the live setting too. It's like that's your one shot, and the humanity of it is just really exciting to me because there aren't just like limitless things like that where an audience or in a community is in the moment and engaging in something. And for me, this album's been done for quite some time, but this is like the most renewing exercise we can do, putting this show together, incorporating all the new music. We're reworking our show essentially for this tour to showcase this music the best we can. And it's just reinvigorated so much energy around, you know, what these songs mean to me. They've evolved in their meaning, and that's all circulating around the live show, that one moment.
Has there been any songs that have kind of surprised you maybe in the way that it's connected to the audience?
Yes. Well, so No One Gets Out Alive, the title track of the record, has this big like overture at the end that is kind of unexpected. And we typically have to put that towards the end of the show because it's hard to follow it up with like a ballad or whatever.
I bet.
But it's so cool to see people just go there with you. And I remember the first time I ever played the song in its entirety, I was a little scared of it. I was like, are people gonna think she's for real? Like, what is she doing? But they totally they accepted the challenge and they went there with us. And it's so fun. It's something I really look forward to. But there's a lot of dynamic to this show. There's dips and peaks and valleys, and I like being able to kind of exhaust all those things with the crowd and take them on a little bit of a ride.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to it. Again, it's going to be at the Barrelhouse Ballroom Thursday, May 16th. You actually do these beautiful live performance videos just recently at the Caverns in Pelham, Tennessee. I love the Caverns. What a fantastic venue. And you were celebrating the release of this new project. How does that live experience differ from maybe recording in the studio or maybe doing something like an intimate setting like the Caverns? What do you prefer as an artist, I guess is where I'm trying to get to?
Well, I think it's nice when you can have all those components come together. With the Caverns, we toured with St. Paul and the Broken Bones at the end of last year, and that's how we kicked off the tour. So in that room, it's a cave. So you would imagine it's a pretty bouncy, echoing room.
I bet.
But with St. Paul, we had 1,500 people in there to soak up all the reverb. And then when I returned to do these live videos, we had an E-string orchestra and we had live drums. So we had Ben Tanner, my producer of the album, helping capture all of that live and plug in direct and avoid the technical nightmares of what recording in a cave could have been like. But it's really cool to be able to have a performance version of that song that is truly live without, a lot of manicuring and reworking and production. Like it's just that's what you get, and it mirrors that feeling of a live performance too, where you have to have a little grace for everyone. Like everyone needs to agree that that's the take you're going to go with, and there's harmony in that. So I stay on the road, and I think we play as many shows as we do because I feel most connected to the live environment and performing.
Very cool. Very cool. It's fantastic. And we'll also put up the links to the videos on our website, alt98.com, so people can go and check that out. And of course, I know they're on your social media as well as your website, maggierosemusic.com. Maggie, this has been a lot of fun. Again, we're looking forward to the show Thursday, May 16th at the Barrelhouse Ballroom right here in Chattanooga. We'll be giving away tickets as well. People can get details at alt98.com. You can also purchase at barrelhouseballroom.com. One final question for you. What do you consider at this point the most important lesson that you've learned since the beginning of doing music?
I think simply you just have to try to make sure you're making music that you love first, and people will typically connect with it or they won't. But if it has to be sustainable. So I needed to make something because I had to make it for me, and trying to just stay true to that and not try to recreate what someone else is doing because you think that might yield more success. I think doing it your way.
Staying true to yourself.
People can tell. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great lesson for everybody to take home. Thank you, Maggie, for the time. We appreciate it. And again, we're going to see you Thursday, May 16th at the Barrelhouse Ballroom, and we'll be sure to follow you. Congratulations on all the success with the new album. And we look forward to seeing you right here in the Scenic City.
We're so excited. Thank you, Gino.
Thank you.
Alt 98.7.